What is up guys, Alex here, and today I'm going to make the first ever sample library review on this channel. And the reason why I'm making these reviews, or rather why I'm going to make a lot of reviews about the sample libraries I use, is a lot of people ask in the comments, what is the best orchestral library, or what is the best percussive library for this kind of sound I want to achieve. So I thought of making these reviews so that you guys can get a glimpse of the libraries I use, where I'm also in these videos I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons and the prices of this library, so you guys can get an idea if that library is for you or not. And also I'm going to showcase the libraries by browsing on the patches and letting you hear what they sound like. So today we're going to talk about Olympus Elements, which is a library from Soundiron, and this is a new addition to my arsenal, and it was actually sent to me by Soundiron themselves, and they asked me to test the library and let them know what I think about it. And so yeah, I'm making this video both for them and for you guys, so that I can talk about this library and tell you what I think about it. So let's hear this short sketch I've wrote with the library. And it's a short sketch of, it's basically a chord progression and a melody soaring on top of it, written with this choral library from Soundiron. So we're going to check it out in 3, 2, 1. And it didn't play, sorry. We're going to check it out in 3, 2, 1. So pretty simple and straightforward, but it has this kind of angelic and holy sound, and that is because this kind of library is, in my opinion, perfect for this kind of stuff. I would not probably use it for angry and dark sounding choir, but for angelic and sacred stuff, it's great. So I would use this library in a fantasy context, for example, but not for trailer music or, I don't know, hybrid orchestral music. So with that aside, let's look at how I use this library to write this chord progression for choir. And yeah, we're going to start by checking out the different layers here. We have 5 different layers. 2 of them are sustained articulations, other 2 are legato articulations, and there is a 5th, which is pad ensemble, which is something I only found on this library, and it's probably the coolest thing about this library, which I'm going to talk to you about later. Let's first check out the sustained layers. So I'm going to play them very shortly and explain to you how I wrote them and why. So as you might have noticed, the choir are changing the vowels they play, and I basically built a phrase with these key switches and these notes. You heard the chord here playing, but these notes do not trigger any sound, and the reason why they do not trigger any sound is that these notes are used for key switches in this library, and key switches are basically controls that modify the performance of the library which you're using. And in in choral libraries, key switches usually select the vowel or the phrase that the choir plays. In this example, they select the vowels, and as you see here, like here we have vowel 1 and vowel 2, and when you change this, it's basically going to change the way the choir plays. So here we have ah, here we have oh. So interchanging these vowels while you let the choir play allows you to create a more interesting performance and more human sounding performance, because if we did not have key switches, they will sound like but with key switches you can make it sound like so it's more human because they change the phrase, and like it's a phrase that goes on, and the more variable you make these key switches. So for example, here on the man we have these key switches, and on the woman we have different key switches. The more variable they are, the more human is going to sound, the more realistic it's going to sound, and rich also, because the phrase the choir sing determines the sound of the note as well. So I use these key switches, and then I used the modulation wheel, which I linked to the swell parameter here. And something I did not like that much about this library is the fact that the MIDI control commands are not set except for the volume. So basically here we have, like, if I was to open a new patch of Olympus play it, if I moved the modulation wheel and the expression wheel, nothing would happen. So usually in orchestral libraries, the modulation wheel determines how hard or soft an instrument is being played, and in orchestral libraries, in choral libraries, it determines again how soft or how hard the choir is singing. But in here there was no such thing, although we have this parameter called swell inside the library, which is pretty much the same thing. So for example, if we have this, as you can see, when I increase the swell, it increases, the loudness of the choir. Although it sounds to me pretty much as if it was a simple volume automation for the most part. Like when it's really low, it's kind of soft, but after a certain threshold, the only thing that seems to change is the volume. So, yeah, I wish they made a better modulation wheel control. So what I did here is link this as well to the modulation wheel myself by clicking on Learn MIDI CC Automation and moving the modulation wheel. That way, when I move the mod wheel, it changes as well. And then I wrote, or rather draw some curves for the mod wheel to make the choir rise in intensity and fall in intensity. So yeah, we have that. And then I did the same thing on the woman choir, although the notes do not all start together. So the woman choir starts a little bit after the man, and it rises independently of the man choir. So it sounds as if multiple voices were coming together, but not in the same exact way and not in the same exact intensity. So this helps into making your choir more rich. And then on top of that, I added some legato choir, which I'm going to isolate. Let's check out the legato choir really fast. Sorry. So with the legato choir, it's the same thing. Like I did the same thing with as well. I automated the modulation wheel. But the cool thing about this legato choir is that it's true legato, which means that it was sampled, and it's not an algorithm that is calculating the legato and simulating it, but it was actually sang this way by the woman that recorded this library, or rather the woman that they used to record this library. So it sounds pretty great, and it has the legato patch has these 4 parameters, and I use the speed one, and this speed parameter determines how fast the legato transition is. So for example, if I set it to 100, it's really fast, but if I set it to 0, it's much slower and more, you feel it more. And you can automate this parameter to make some legato passages more fast and others slower, like I did here. I linked this to CC 50. Like, in the same way, right click, learn MIDI CC automation, and then I moved the CC50. And then I draw these, steps to alter the legato speed during this, phrase here. So nothing too hard. And yeah, the thing is that to make this choir more realistic, I sequenced it in many different patches, as you see here, and each patch has its own, MIDI control commands, curves, and yeah, each patch has its own attack times and release times, so it's not written with a robotic precision, but it's in a pretty much loose way, and that helps you into making a choir that sounds more has a little bit more body and more humanity, because usually choirs are made formed by many different persons, like 20-40 persons, so it's really unlikely that those persons are all going to play with the same attack and release. So it's good to write your choir in many different layers, and so that you can write voice by voice, and when those voices add together, they create something more interesting. And then below of that, we have the choir ensemble pad, and this is something I found in this library, which I didn't find in other choral libraries, and which are pad patches. And again, this is also why I think Olympus is great for angelic choir. So let's check out the pad, and I'm going to talk to you about that later. So it sounds pretty great. Like, it has the kind of I mean, I don't know what it is. It sounds like low pass choir, but with a lot of reverb and stuff. And it has way more attack and way more release, so it sounds pretty much like a pad, but the quality of it's amazing. So I placed this below everything else, and it plays basically the chord progression, or shorter, more simple version of it. But with that, pad sound, it's really amazing, and it serves as a foundation for everything else to build upon it. By the way, that was only one of the many different patches we have in this library. And yeah, because we have like a section which is made only of those libraries, which has like 10 or 15 libraries here. So let's talk about the pros and cons about Olympus Elements. So the pros are, this library is great for angelic sounding choir, and for holy and sacred sounding ethereal choir, if you will. So it's great for fantasy stuff, although that is also the reason why I believe it's not the best thing for stuff, angry, dark, energetic trailer music, for example, because this is too, I don't know, it sounds too pure and calm and tranquil to me. So I would not use this in a aggressive trailer cue, or in a track where I need that over-the-top, epic and angry choir, which, almost eats you alive. So yeah, this library is pretty great for fantasy stuff, but for powerful, aggressive stuff, I'm not sure. And one con of the library is that I noticed that sorry, let's talk about the pros first. So the one pro is that it's great for fantasy stuff. Another pro is the price, actually. It costs only $99, which is a steal for this kind of library, because it has a lot of stuff. And, sample libraries cost, like, this kind of things is quite expensive. But this is a more, simple version of another library from Soundiron. And I think this version is specifically for those who do not have, enough money to invest in a $500 choral library, but it's still great. So if it's a great budget library, because it's good bang for the buck. Although being a simplistic version of another library, which is Olympus Choir or Olympus Symphonic Choir from Soundiron. It has some features which are not like, it lacks some features which are, which would be great to have. So one of the features that it lacks is round robins. So let's check out what happens when I play some staccatos here. So listen to the staccatos. They do not ever change. Like, it triggers the same sample all the time. And this is because this library lacks round robin, which are different samples for the same note that interchange themselves, so that when you play the note, you do not get that machine gun effect. Instead, you have different samples that cycle and interchange themselves to make the same notes sound different all the time and to make the thing sound more human. This is something I wish this library had, but again, it's only a $99 library, so it's justified. And another thing I did not enjoy as much is the fact that, again, the modulation wheel and expression are linked to nothing. And yeah, with that aside though, and yeah, the fact that the library is not, like, it would not bear or withstand the power of a epic aggressive trailer cue on top of it. So yeah, those are three things I do not like about this library. But again, for this price, if you make music that needs, fantasy or angelic choir, this is a really good investment, and it doesn't cost anything really. So let's check out another cool thing about the library, the different patches we have. So here we have ambiances patches, choral effects, marcatos, phrase master, staccato, sustain, true legato, and vowel master. So let's check out the ambiances, and these are something I really liked. So these are patches that they made by using the choir they recorded for the library and processing it and making some sound design to make those dark sounding drones. So let's check out this, for example. Like, they did an amazing job. Like, this sounds very, very different from a choir, but I believe this was made with the choir from the library. And there are many different, patches like this. And there is this one, Womangelis, which is probably my favorite of the ones I heard. I mean, it sounds amazing. So yeah, it's pretty great, and again, it's completely untouched. Like, this is all inside the library, these reverbs and stuff. This library has a pretty nice reverb with a lot of impulse responses, so you can get a different kind of room only by changing the impulse responses of the pads, for example. So again, $99, and you also get a nice reverb with some pretty nice impulse responses. It's pretty great. Then we have a vibrato, which I did not try, but let's check it out. Doesn't seem to work on this patch, but yeah. So let's go on. Choral effects. This is another thing which is pretty cool about this library. We have a lot of choral effects like shouts, risers, drones. So let's check out the man shouts. This is probably my favorite sound in choral libraries, and I'm glad that this library had this kind of sound. So let's check out what I talk about. If you listen to my music, you know that I use this a lot in a subtle way, but I use them whenever I can because they are amazing. And I'm a huge fan of Naruto, the anime, and in Naruto they have this Asian huge and powerful choir shouts, which I have no idea where they got. I think they sampled them, live. So there are custom sounds, but I will die to have those kind of sounds. So when I use, like when I buy or I get a library which has male shouts, it's already a good point in its favor for me. Then it has whispers. Creepy as fuck. As fuck. So we have also risers. Pretty great. Clusters. And yeah, other stuff. So this is great to if you have to recreate a sort of anxiety, and the shouts are actually amazing. So this is like, this will do well in an aggressive trailer queue for sure. Like this is something like, yeah, I would definitely use this in trailer queues as well. So another point in the favor of this library's favor. Then we have some Marcato patches. So marcatos are like different from staccatos. They are short, short choral lines, but pretty intense. So they are not staccato because staccato are the most intense but shorter. They are not sustains because sustains are the least intense but way longer. And marcatos are basically something in between. So yeah, these are pretty cool, but it seems to me that they have their own, sustain, which is unchanged, but by how long you press the note. Like if I press for a fraction of a second, it's going to play the whole note forcefully, and this is something I do not. Maybe there's a way to disable it, but I'm not a fan of this because maybe I want shorter marcato shorter marcato notes and other that are longer, but in here I cannot do that. So I'm not sure why they did it like that, and maybe there is a way to prevent it, but doesn't seem to me. So yeah, not a big fan of that. Then we have Phrase Master. And Phrase Master is useful to make that key switch game, and without using key switches, so you can build your phrases by clicking on the syllables here. And as you can see here on the right, we have the phrase which we are building. So on every note that I play, the choir is going to move, one syllable. How to say that? It's going to move one phrase ahead, so it's going to change, the syllables and the vowels all the time. So for example, it also seems to me this is interchanging between, staccatos and sustains. So yeah, this is something which you can basically use to write interesting phrases instead of using key switches. But I find myself more comfortable with key switches instead of using phrase builders. But if you are a guy who uses phrase builders, you can use this and you're good to go. Anyway, I believe I talked about all the important things about this library. Maybe there are some things I forgot to mention, or maybe there are some things I did wrong, because this is a new library which, I'm new to this, so I'm still learning how to use it. But from my analysis and from my observations and the things I noticed while writing this short sketch, the things I talked about are the most relevant. So see for yourself if this is a good library that you should get or not. Again, I believe that for the most part it's great for fantasy and calm and ethereal sounding stuff, but the shouts and the choir effects like whispers and stuff, those are pretty much versatile, and the pads are amazing. So it's great for fantasy stuff, for atmospheric stuff, and it's great also if you want to have interesting choir effects, which is something that not all libraries have. So that's it for Olympus Elements, and again, only 99 bucks for this library. So it's pretty great. Like it's a pretty great price if if you don't have a lot of money to invest into sample libraries yet. And yeah, I'm going to make other sample libraries reviews soon, and tutorials as well. I know I skipped the tutorial for this week, for last week, but yeah, again, been a lot of busy. So I hope this tutorial, or rather, I hope this sample library review helped you guys. And by the way, if you're new, or if this is the first video you see from me, and you're interested in learning how to make orchestral music, cinematic music, and stuff like that, my channel is full of tutorials based on this kind of stuff. So you might want to check it out and subscribe. And yeah, leave me a comment or like this video if you enjoyed it, or if you have questions, you know, leave them in the comment section, and I'll do my best to answer those. And big shout out to Soundiron for being so kind to send me this library. So that's it for today. Alex out.